I'm going to introduce for you guys Carolyn McKinney. Some of you know her. She's been a licensed teacher for 26 years. She's been part of the Excel Center Anderson for 5 years and currently teaches Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and Financial Foundations. As a first-generation college student who finished college as a single mom, struggled with self-esteem and alcohol abuse, and has seen family members sent to prison for drug charges, Carolyn has not forgotten the struggle and acknowledges the obstacles our students face daily. I'd also like to introduce Eric. Eric Piershala is the 4th year as a humanities teacher at the Excel Center in Anderson, Indiana. Before joining the Excel Center team, Eric taught 9th grade English at Pendleton Heights High School, and then 7th grade language arts. Oops, I just changed my screen, sorry. And then 7th grade language arts at Pendleton Heights Middle School. Eric holds an MFA in creative writing, poetry. Before becoming a teacher, Eric played professional baseball and then worked in baseball player development. The son of a 16-year-old mother who went on to gain her college degree, and being raised in a house affected by alcoholism where education was kind of escape, Eric believes that expressing yourself through writing can serve as a tool to help people survive through their personal struggles and traumas.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, John. I see you're letting the folks in the waiting room. Thank you so much. I'm kind of used to multitasking as a teacher, but it's nice today to have someone else on the waiting room duty. So you might have noticed that our bios didn't quite sound like the traditional bios for speakers, right? We chose to share some of those things to show that we do have experience. You know, we are not imposters. We do belong here, but also that those are some of the things that we share with our students at some point to let them know that we are people and that we have not always had a perfect, easy life. And so that hopefully they can relate better to us and be a little more comfortable to tell us when things go awry. And so that's the story of our bios, and just letting you know a little about our background. And as I was in Jerry's session earlier and talked about many of our Excel Center teachers being more likely to have higher ACE scores, I think sometimes that there is something that draws us to serve after we have overcome. And so I'm going to be putting, first off, before I even share, I'm going to put in the chat a Jamboard in case we don't get to our breakout rooms, or we don't have time to debrief, or you just have like this thought and you're afraid you're going to lose it. You can obviously put it in the chat, but you can also add it to that Jamboard and as a little post-it sticky note so that people can see that. All right. So that other people can see that, and people later even can go back and see that also. All right. Awesome. So Eric, can you tell what was our impetus for, like, why did we even decide to even think about relationships?
Yeah, so there's a moment that occurred this past school year that really got Carolyn and I interested in exploring and then presenting how we connect with our students. So Carolyn and I both had a student who was struggling with a number of life issues. She was caring for her 3 kids and then also caring for her sister's 3 kids. She found out her grandfather was on his deathbed, and then her sister's children, who she was taking care of, had been exposed to COVID. And our student wasn't getting much help from her husband, who both Carolyn and I would see walking around shirtless in the background on Zoom. And then on top of all that, she was scheduled to have surgery at the end of the term. She had told both me and Carolyn that she needed us on screen to motivate her to finish her classes. So here we are on a Saturday and a Sunday independently, just staying online with her to help her finish her math and English classes. And we realized and then talked about how in some ways we were fulfilling the roles of a sister and a brother as much as a teacher. And that led to this presentation, Give Them One Reason to Stay.
Yeah, so yes, thank you, Eric, for sharing that story. And neither Eric or I, until we had spent the time with the student and they said, oh, hold on, Mr. Eric is texting me back. We didn't know that the other one was doing those same things. Like we were just independently and then realized, oh, and then we ended up taking a photo together to send to her to say like, while you're finishing things, like look at this photo and pretend we're there with you. So verify for me, Eric, that I am sharing my screen.
Yes.
Okay, let me make sure that I gotta click my share sound button because you guys don't want to miss the good stuff. All right, so that's why we thought about doing the session, but the actual name for the session came from, I'm sure some of you have had that moment, you're doing a class and you say a certain phrase and a song comes to your mind. And I had said, my Algebra 2 class, I wanted some explanation, some justification. And I said, give me one reason. And Deidre said, give me one reason. I said, yes, like someone else knows the song. And then she sent me this in Facebook Messenger. She was online for class. She was multitasking, obviously.
Thank you, Miss Carolyn, for being the best teacher ever. I couldn't have done it without you. Here's our song. Class of 21, here I come.
So, hence a title was born. So we had the idea, but that was where our title came from. So, Eric?
Yeah, we go to the next slide. As a part of how I like to build these relationships with students, I'd like to share some of the things that I do on my first day of class.
Thank you.
Sorry.
It's okay. Maybe you already do some of these things, but I'm hoping that maybe some of these ideas might spark an idea or two as you try to establish your own connections and build relationships with your students during a first class. So this first one is how I've started my history classes since I've started teaching at the Excel Center. And I start that class by saying, let me tell you about my grandmother. I go on to tell the story of how my grandmother back in the early 1940s went to 1 year of college before World War II started, but then how she got a job in a wartime factory in Detroit, helping to build tanks. I also tell about how we found out years and years later that after the war, she had a secret marriage down in Mexico, that it must not have lasted long, that she never talked about it, but we did always wonder how she knew Spanish. I then go on to tell how my grandmother married my grandfather. I also tell them how my grandfather was a terrible alcoholic, and that it was so bad that my grandmother would do things like have the kids' birthday parties when she knew he would be at work because of the chaos his drinking could cause. I also tell them how my grandmother, who was a secretary accountant, but was paid as a secretary, secretly saved money on the side and eventually saved up enough money to buy a house on her own, and that she moved the kids out, leaving my grandfather. Go on to tell them how her youngest daughter, my biological mother, was only 16 when she had me. So how my grandmother adopted me, which made my biological mother my legal sister. But how this all was pretty cool because I had two moms. I also tell them that I've never met my biological dad, and then go on to tell them how when my grandmother retired that she went back to college and finished her college degree when she was 70 years old. Of course, she didn't need the degree at that point, but how it was important to her to be able to say that she was a college graduate. I tell this story so I can tell students something about me and my history. And I think that this story is relatable to many of our students, as I come from a family affected by addiction, and also because I was born to a teenage mother. But I'm here and everything turned out okay. This story also allows me to talk about why education is important to me. So maybe plant the seed of why education can be important to our students, to tell them that just like how my grandmother went back to college at age 65, that they're coming back to school, and how they got their high school diploma as adults might be a part of the story that one day someone is telling about them. And then also to say that 4 out of 5 of my grandmother's children have a college degree, and how now all of her grandchildren have college degrees. As I want our students to know that through their effort, they can be the start of a new 3-generation cycle, or maybe in 2 generations, all of their grandchildren could be college graduates. With our next slide, this is how I start all of my beginning writing and beginning essay classes. I say, when I was in high school, I didn't like to write. So I started telling the students how when I was in high school, I didn't like to write, but when I was 15, that changed when I met a girl, and how we lived a 45-minute drive away from each other, that we didn't have cars, and how this was pre-internet, so there was no email, no cell phones or texting or Snapchat, and how phone calls then, especially outside of Detroit, were expensive. And so how we started writing love letters to each other, and that this lasted a little over a year, and how, though it didn't work out, when I had a book signing in Michigan after my first book was published, that she showed up, she bought a couple of books, and she told me she kept all those letters I sent her, and that she had them in a shoebox in her closet. It's a little bit embarrassing. It's kind of fun and lovely at the same time. And I tell them how, looking back, that writing those love letters made me like writing. And that later on, I realized that writing those letters was like a form of journaling, because I was writing them once or twice a week. And also that those love letters taught me something about writing, because when we write, I think we are in essence writing love letters, as we want to be liked by our readers. And I like to tell these 2 stories on the first day because I think it's important to establish that no one's past is perfect, and that we all take sometimes seemingly strange and atypical routes to becoming who we become. The next thing I do on a first day, usually I use this in my English 111 class, but I'll ask them questions like, who is proud that you are here today? Or when was the last time you went out of your way to be nice to someone? Or maybe I'll give them a prompt like love is, and just ... just to see where their mind goes. But another question I ask is, as we see here on the slide, what song do you listen to when? And then I might add something like when you want to be happy, or when you want to get motivated, or when you just want to be sad. So some of the songs I've listened to just in the last couple of weeks it's an interesting mix. There's the song Secrets by One Republic, and Latanya Green's Myself, and Ruler of Everything by Tally Hall, and I hope I'm saying this right, YKWIM by Yacht Club, and then my favorite title of them all, Yucky Blucky Fruitcake by, and I hope I'm saying this right, I Am Do-Chi. Someone correct me if I didn't say that right. But these are all fun songs in their own way, and through these songs and listening to them, I get to find out a little bit about my students. But I think it's important on the first day of class that our students get to teach me something, or introduce me to something new, and something that they like, so they feel valued. And so as we kind of further talk about setting the tone on the first day of class, I'll turn it back over to Carolyn.
All right. So I'm just curious, how many of you, I feel like we need a point system. I have to confess, I don't think I'm familiar with any of those songs. Is anybody familiar with all 5 of those songs? It's probably like,
That's me, only me, I guess.
Probably only Eric. Now, of course, they're not on the screen anymore to see, but, or he just said them, I guess. But so as a math teacher, I don't have kind of those opportunities to give them writing prompts and get to know them in that way. Sometimes that's a little harder to build some of those relationships initially. I do try to, I give a survey, and I try to tell them a little about myself. I give them small doses of my past. I don't hit them with all that at once. But I share a little bit about myself. And I also then ask them for some information. And I tell them, I won't ask you for information that I won't give you. So I'm asking you for your phone number, and here's mine. I'm asking you for your Facebook name, and here's a place you can get a hold of me on Messenger. I'm asking you how you feel about math, and I'm going to share with you that I failed calculus once, all right? Because I didn't go to class, right? And that probably that's why you failed a math class too, because you didn't go. So I try to introduce myself, try to help establish that also I sat where many of, particularly our women are sitting in that, but I was a college student. I was that single parent trying to finish college, just the same way they're that single parent trying to finish high school. And there were a lot of parallels. And so that they might feel more comfortable talking to me. And we'll hear in a little while some student videos and their responses. So hold on, don't leave us, because we got the great stuff coming. All right. And so students oftentimes will say, I'm no good at math. I'm not a math person. I'm not sure why it's so socially acceptable to say I'm not good at math. But it seems to be. And so I try to break them of that habit to say, like, if you're a person and you do math, then you can be a math person. That's all it takes. Be a person, do some math. That's all. Try to remind them that you aren't born knowing this. That's what I'm here for. I'm a teacher. Like, I'm going to help you. When I don't know how to do this yet. You don't know how yet. And so trying to remind them of those things, and just a little bit of getting to know them. So later I can make some connections to their hobbies, their likes and dislikes, and they get to know me a little bit. So Eric, go ahead about your syllabus. Would you like me to go to the next page?
Yes, please. So one of the things, in a similar way, Carolyn talks about hearing things like, I'm not a math person. And so as an English teacher, I'll hear things like, I don't like to write, or, I've never written anything before. So I'll do things like this on a syllabus, because I think that a syllabus can really set the tone for things within a class. Typically on a syllabus, we see it as kind of routine. It's a list of due dates, and to say that an A is 90% and higher, the obvious stuff. But I see a syllabus as an opportunity. So I'll add things like this onto the syllabus, like is in this slide. So on my creative writing syllabus, I have these things that are unacceptable to say in a class, in my class. You can't say, I've never written anything before, or I've never written a story before, or I've never written a poem before, or I'm not a storyteller, I don't tell stories, or I don't have any stories. These are all lies, as we are writing and telling stories all the time. It's how we make our way through life. And these are statements filled with fear of your own voice. In this class, no fear. We'll be taking writing risks. We'll be searching the depths of ourselves and imaginations, and attempting to get our stories down on paper. Another thing I say that they can't say in my creative writing classes is, I know this isn't very good, or this is just a first draft, or things like, I know this probably sucks, but if the story or poem needs some work, and it will, let the reader figure that out, and don't shape our opinion before we read the story you're telling. Another thing I say they can't say is, I don't want you to read it, which I hear all the time. We all must understand that creative writing is a vulnerable act. We are presenting our imperfections to the world. The storytelling worlds you will be creating will most likely not be perfect, but success in this art is a process. As a part of that process, we start out with imperfect creations and try to make those creations better and better with each revision. Again, writing is a vulnerable act. Be supportive of your classmates. And one of the things as a way to get the students to connect with one another, is I have them peer edit, and I like them to read each other's stories. I think with this syllabus, especially in what I say here, it's really fun, because maybe in the second or third or seventh or 12th class, a student will say one of these things, and I'll have another student say, you can't say that in this class. That's always fun to hear that. But I believe moments like these can set the tone that the Excel Center is not like other schools our students have been to. That yes, learning this stuff can be challenging, that learning anything takes multiple exposures and work and effort and some resiliency. But the days of answering questions with N/A or IDK are over. That if you have the urge to put IDK as an answer, that it's time to ask me some questions, that I will help you. And that those NA and IDK times, those were the battle days. And overall, that you're going to make some mistakes, and that's all okay. So now that you've heard some of the ways that Carolyn and I tend to connect with our students on the first day of class, let's hear some of our students' voices and what they've said about connections.
Awesome. Thanks, Eric. So a quote here from Theodore Roosevelt: "People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care." So you aren't going to hear any students really say like, "Miss Carolyn knows everything about math," or "Mr. Eric is the greatest writer ever." It's not what impresses them, to be honest. So we'll hear first from Shaq.
How you doing? My name is Shaquille Swain, and what really helped me to encourage me to stay at the Excel Center was the staff. Like, they really were helpful, and they really cared, like, even about your personal life. Like Miss Brandy Bass, for instance, like, she was a big encouragement, huge encouragement. And I started in like 2013, 2014. I didn't graduate until 2020, so it took me about 6 to 7 years, and I kept leaving, kept coming back, kept leaving, kept coming back. And then I came back one year, and I seen one of my old high school teachers here, Miss McKinney, Miss Carolyn McKinney, and Miss Miriam and her. They just, really encouraged me to stay and made sure I got my things done and made sure I was here on time. Like, if I wasn't up in the morning, Miss Miriam or Miss Carolyn, they would message me like, "Hey, you have to be at school." So I would make it even if I was late. They always encouraged me. And Miss McKinney, she was actually my high school teacher. So like when I got here, like we had already had a bond built. So she really wanted me to get it done, even from actual high school. So she really was, encouraging me and basically on my top about my work and all that. Like, even when I wasn't even in her class yet, she was still asking me about how was my classes going, how was my schoolwork going. And then when I got to her class, like, she was being patient with me, like, it took me forever to get the algebra down. Like, it really did. But she stayed patient with me and worked with me. She didn't cut me off not one time, And then Miss Miriam, she stayed on me. Like I said, she messaged me every morning, make sure I got up for school. And, they just a great staff. Like, I love the Excel Center, and I'm glad I was able to be a part of the Excel Center. And Miss Carolyn McKinney, like I said, she was a huge encouragement, especially with her being my actual high school teacher. I was already comfortable around her, And Miss Brandy Bass definitely was a huge encouragement. Miss Miriam definitely was a huge encouragement, So to those three, I really want to thank them because they actually helped me get it done.
Yep. So in between the time that I had Shaq in traditional school, it was actually alternative school, and he was, like 15 years old. Between then and when I met him here, there was about probably at least 6 years, probably more like 8 years in between. And I saw him a few times on the streets. I would be out running at 5:30 in the morning, and he had been up all night. And, there were some times I always spoke. We were always friendly. But it was so great to see him back at school and with a better plan for his life. So awesome. This is Sienna, and Sienna did not make a video for us. But she sent me something via Facebook, and we had a picture that we had taken together. And I just asked her, I said, when I was trying to tell her what we were looking for, I was like, so what do you think? Do students even know that staff cares? And so these are her exact words, non-edited. And I probably can't even read it correctly, but believe me, we def do. That makes a huge diff. At one point in time, before you was there, someone had mentioned that I was so depressed I hadn't eaten a week, and they pulled me out of school for a few hours and took me to McDonald's and just talked. And sometimes those are the things that our students need at that moment. Speaking of McDonald's, this is Malaysia. Malaysia is 17 and expecting twins.
Hi, my name is Malaysia Hendricks, and I just started coming here about maybe 2 weeks ago, maybe 3, I don't know. But what encouraged me to stay here was the director. Well, when I first came here, I didn't know that, that you had to provide your own food and stuff. And so on my first day, I was really hungry because I didn't eat breakfast. And when lunchtime came around, I didn't have any food, and I was upset. And so the director saw me, and she asked me what was wrong. And I told her that I haven't eaten any food because I didn't know that you were supposed to bring your own. And so she went out and got me McDonald's just to be nice, I guess, or whatever. And that really made me see, like, oh, well, these people here, they do really care about, their students that come here. Because without that, I'd probably end up crying or something. Because I really need food. I like eating. And she just really helped me out with that. And I thank her for that. So that encouraged me to stay here longer and to finish here.
All right, now I'll make where's my little button? There we go. All right, so for some of you, probably not you, because if you signed up for this session, you probably are kind of a little more touchy-feely, maybe. But just in case, for all my science folks out there, there is actually brain science behind the value of these positive relationships. One, positive relationships help build motivation because the positive interactions chemically trigger a dopamine cycle, just like playing a video game and achieving a level, and then you want to play more and you want to play more, or getting the like on Facebook. So those positive interactions, whether that's positive feedback for the work they're doing, or I see you trying, right? I see what you're doing, or just asking about a song that they like, or how their job was, that you have that positive interaction. They get that little dopamine, it gives them some encouragement. It's a very chemical process, not just a psychological, but it's chemical. Also, as we build safe spaces with the positive relationships, then our bodies can release oxytocin, and we feel psychologically safe, and we can operate from our frontal lobe and our whatever is that prefrontal cortex, I think, but we can learn, right? If we are always in stress mode and our cortisol level is up and our adrenaline is up, and we're back to that amygdala in action, and we can't learn from there, and our students can't learn from there. And so when we build those safe spaces and we let them know that, like, I see you trying, and I know this is hard, but you've done hard things before. You guys are doing such hard things. You guys have found ways to give your kids a Christmas when you had next to no money. You found a way to school when you didn't have transportation today and you missed the bus. You found a way to raise your kids when baby daddy went to jail. You're taking care of your sister's children. You're doing all these hard things. You've made it through addiction yourself, or you're trying to support a family member as they walk through this. You have done much harder things than Algebra 2. And so trying to let them know that and help them feel safe, and that it's a safe place to make mistakes, that they can take those learning risks, allows them to feel calmer, even if the rest of their life is not so calm, because we can't change everything, right? We do what we can. Also, positive relationships help us build neural pathways. And if we know our students and we know some of their hobbies and interests, that helps us to build on things in a way that builds on existing pathways that they already have. So instead of forging an entire new trail in their brain to completely new pathways, we can build on the things that they already know. And then they can learn faster, and they can remember better and for longer. And they're just more interested, right? And so, but if we don't know anything about them, it's hard to make those connections. So having that relationship with them is important. And then, of course, positive relationships improve student behaviors. That might seem like well, yeah, because, they're going to behave better around us. But there's also the same reason, this mirror neuron system, the same reason that little children pick up on things we do, adults pick up on things we do. They pick up on our empathy, and subconsciously even, they start practicing these things. And so those positive relationships, brain science says we're doing all the right things. There are chemical reasons behind the positive response to those things. All right, Eric. Oh, hold on. Oh, yep. Eric, did you want to say anything about Angela and Cassie, or you just want me to play?
Yeah, go. You can just go ahead and play those. Yeah.
All right.
I think having a relationship with the staff it does matter, because sometimes having the staff believe in you make everything all good.
So Angela's been gone from here for a while. She actually moved on to another Excel Center in Indy and graduated. And so I was really surprised to get a video from her, because I didn't even know she had seen my request for that. And we'll hear from Cassie.
I feel that a relationship with staff members, or staff in general, is important. It's important to, as a student, to articulate everyday things, whether it be my child's sick and I can't be in class today, or I'm in class but I need to leave for a doctor's appointment, or I'm not feeling the best even though I'm here. And if you don't have that relationship, sometimes it can be hard to tell someone your needs. And I feel it kind of goes the same way with staff members. If you're not comfortable with telling your students, hey, I had a family member die and that's why I'm a little anxious, or I'm a little on edge today, or whatever, I have jury duty, or like those little things that sometimes can affect how you're teaching or how you're interacting with people. That matters as well. I know that we know as adults that education is important for our children, and sometimes priorities do get a little mixed up, but all in all, if you have that relationship with a staff member and are able to articulate your needs, generally things tend to go better for you in the end. So that is my opinion as to, you know, relationships and if they matter or not.
Oh, there we go.
So Shaq had mentioned encouragement in his video, and so we wanted to share 3 videos that were focused around our encouragement of students. And I have a quote here from Goethe, and I guess if it worked in the 18th century, it works now. At least this does, maybe. Instruction does much, but encouragement does everything. And so we have videos from Dawn, Jennifer, and Francis.
And again, we just had the students do these themselves, so.
I think that with the staff members I have dealt with, they're really helpful when you ask for help, and they encourage you to do better if you're not doing well, or ask if you need help. They are very attentive, and they always say keep up the good work when you are doing well. At least from what Miss Carolyn, Mr. Stu, and Miss Patty has said.
All right, we'll go to see Jennifer here.
Hey everyone, I just want to give Miss Melissa a big shout out. She has been a really good coach to me. She has been working with me and making sure that no matter my work schedule, no matter how frustrated I am or the anxiety that I have, she sticks with me and makes my schedule work through school so that I can make sure that my classes are good. And I want to give a shout out to Mr. Eric for making sure and having faith in me within my creative writing class that I could do what I was doing to be able to pass the class and to take on a challenge in his class that he challenged me to do. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it. I'm getting closer to being able to graduate, and I'm still working hard.
Full screen wasn't necessarily intentional. Is that, sorry guys.
Hi. I really do feel like the teachers here are wonderful at what they do, and I have come a long way because I was failing algebra back in 2008. But when I first started going back to the school at the Excel Center, I had that one goal to finish high school. Well, now it's to finish high school, get my diploma, and work towards a career, not just a job. Not just an average high school diploma job. I was horrible in algebra back in 2008, and I have 2 little girls now, so it's a little bit of a handful. So I thought I'd really have challenges. But once I was in school, I was doing amazing in algebra, and I really passed algebra with flying colors, thanks to Miss Caroline and Miss Lindsay for helping me with the math. They are amazing teachers and helped me learn everything that I know now. But I did quit back in 2008. I had about a year left to go. I felt like there was no help, that I would never get through algebra. I felt like I was on my own. And I did barely get help from the teachers, and it failed. It was more so that I was too shy to ask. I came back after 13 years, and I realized that the teachers here do want to help you pass, as long as you're willing to put in the effort and actually learn. I'm proud to say that I have passed algebra. And I'm looking forward to Algebra 2 with the help of Miss Carolyn. And Thanks to Mr. Eric for passing English and helped me learn creative writing. So what keeps me engaged and wanting to learn is the drive I have as an adult and the amazing teachers here willing to help me reach my goal in passing high school. I do appreciate all the teachers at the Excel Center. They go above and beyond to help you learn. Thank you, definitely Miss Carolyn, Mr. Eric, Miss Lindsay, and all the other teachers making it possible for others to finish what they started. You are amazing at what you do and have the patience of a saint.
I have to be reminded of that sometimes, that I have the patience of a saint. No, sorry, Francis. I heard you once. Sorry.
Hey everyone, I just want to get
Jennifer.
So I think as and further thinking about how we connect with students, as Carolyn and I were researching student retention, we often ran into ideas on how businesses retain customers. And as I also worked in small business consulting, this really seems to make sense. One way we can think about what we do at the Excel Center is that education is in part sales, and that our students are our customers. And so we have a quote here from 7 Powerful Ways to Improve Customer Retention. We could just replace customer with students. And so student retention means keeping customers happy or students happy, making them feel important, regularly considering and communicating with and keeping them coming back for more. And I think one way we can think about what we do at the Excel Center is that education is in part sales, and that our students are our customers, especially our students. So it's interesting to think about that idea of students as customers and how that idea applies, especially so with our students. As further, talking about making connections with students, Carolyn found this quote from Brene Brown about connecting with our students without judgment. So Brene Brown says, "Connection is the energy that exists between people when they feel seen, heard, and valued, when they can give and receive without judgment, and when they derive sustenance and strength from the relationship."
Absolutely. Thank you. And so we knew we would probably be close on our time. And so that's why I made the Jamboard in case people had ideas to share. I did see in the chat, someone asked about the presentation, and I'll throw that link up here. Maybe after I done share, I'm afraid I'm going to unshare. We have one more. Want to end on a really strong note. So well spoken here.
Hi, my name is Andrew, and I wanted to talk about some of the things that made me realize the Excel Center was, for me personally, one of the best decisions I've ever made, or to attend the Excel Center. One of the first things was when I told Miss Megan and Miss Patty about my name and pronouns as a transgender individual. It was really cool to have such an accepting and safe space. They've always been genuinely so accepting about it, and Miss Patty even had an enthusiasm about it, and it was really sweet. And so was Megan. She posted something on her Facebook about name and pronouns and gender and things that you should and shouldn't say, and it was actually accurate, because I see a lot of those things that aren't accurate, and it made me feel very nice and accepted before I even attended. And being commended on my grades by Megan was so cool, because these are the best grades that I have had in a while, because again, with being transgender, it wasn't always the best space, And I also have undiagnosed ADHD along with some other issues that I struggle with. And it's always been very, very hard in regular schools to get caught up, stay caught up with everything that I needed to do. And I've been able to maintain good grades for the first time in a really long time due to the community and the teachers and staff. I've been able to help people, which is really something that I love to do. I love helping people. So I'll see someone who needs help and then they're really sweet about it. And I don't know, it's really nice. It's a good feeling of community, which I didn't really get at other schools because I was a lot more quiet at other schools than I am here, I think. I like being given the opportunity to talk freely about things. And I like the sense of independence and freedom that I get at this school because it's a lot different. And I feel like it's preparing me better for the rest of my adulthood to come. So yeah, thank you, Excel Center.
Eric, close us out.
Hi, my name is Andrew.
Okay, so we've come to the end of our presentation, and I hope we've got you thinking a little more about the ways you connect with students, and hopefully through this session that it's reinforced the job you do is important. And further, that one of the most important things that we do at the Excel Center is to connect with our students, and that those connections are, if not just as important, then maybe even more important than the material we teach. So give them one reason to stay.